Dear students, I welcome you all in Sciencephian. In our today's video, we will discuss about the nutritional requirement of plants, that is nutrition in plants, class 7th. Let's start. In this world, or I say on this earth, every living organism, whether it's a human, it's an animal or a plant, they need food to live, to sustain the various life processes in their life. Because the various life processes like digestion, respiration, reproduction, excretion, etc. cannot be done when we will not have the ample amount of energy. So, why energy is very important for us? We get this energy from the food that we eat. This is why it is said that we should eat a very healthy food. And after eating the food, we get the energy so that the various life processes can happen in our body. The food contains various nutrients like proteins, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins and minerals. These nutrients help an organism to carry out the functions like growth and development of the body, repair of the damaged and worn out cells, etc. Now, the process of taking these various nutrients and its absorption, assimilation and utilization by the body is known as nutrition. Dear students, in this video we will study about how do plants get their nutrients. So let's start. Basically, plants' nutrition is divided into two types of modes: autotrophic mode of nutrition and heterotrophic mode of nutrition. In autotrophic mode of nutrition, the word autotroph is there. So, if I will divide or cut that word into two, I will get one half auto and the other as trophos. The word auto means self, apne aap. Trophos means nourishment. So, वो organisms जो अपना नरिशमेंट अपने आप करते हैं, they take care of themselves. We call them autotrophs. And the organism which undergoes such type of nutrition known as autotrophs. And the mode of nutrition, autotrophic mode of nutrition. Now I will ask you, can you tell me which type of organisms perform the mode of autotrophic? Do we humans? Do we make our food ourselves? In our kitchens we do it, but actually we don't. We are dependent on plants and animals for our food. But do you know? Plants are the species, the organisms. They undergo the process of self-nourishment because they make their food themselves by the process of photosynthesis. Because the basic requirements like carbon dioxide, water and minerals from the atmosphere, they collect all these things and make their food in the leaves in the presence of chlorophyll, and this process is termed as photosynthesis. So, if a question comes, give an example of an organism that undergoes the autotrophic mode of nutrition, we can say plants. Plants are the organisms which undergo the autotrophic mode of nutrition. This was about autotrophs. Now, second mode of nutrition is heterotrophic mode of nutrition. In this, the word heterotroph, if again I will divide this word into two, I will get hetero and I will get trophos. Dear students, hetero means other. Trophos means nourishment. So yes, here we can say the organisms which depend on others for their food, for their nourishment, comes into the category of heterotrophic mode of nutrition. And they are well known as heterotrophs. Now question comes, what are the examples of such species, such organisms? So here comes the examples of we human beings and animals, also some non-green plants. So let's study about heterotrophs in detail. Heterotrophic mode of nutrition is further classified into various types like saprotrophic, parasitic and symbiotic. So one by one, let's study about them. Now let's discuss saprophytic nutrition. Some non-green plants which are white in color, usually white in color and without leaves, they undergo this type of nutrition. Now what they do? These organisms, these plants, they feed on the dead and decaying matter. Now the examples of these types of nutrition plants are Indian pipe and coral roots. So actually the roots of these plants, they are having fungus inside them. So the fungus just feed on the dead and decaying matter and convert it into liquid. And this liquid being taken as a nutrient by the plants. Fungus is also examples are molds, yeast, mushroom. Yes, the mushroom that we eat, that is an edible fungi. Earlier, the fungus were also known as a plant, but due to its some different characteristics, it's no longer considered as a plant and it is kept into a separate kingdom. This was about the saprotrophic nutrition. Always remember, in saprotrophic nutrition, the organism directly does not feed on the dead and decay matter. It needs to convert it into a liquid form because only in that liquid form it can easily digest it. Now next mode of nutrition is parasitic. Here the word parasite means the organism that lives onto the body of other and derive nutrition from itself. The cuscuta or amarbale is a such type of a vine which is having yellow, long, slender branches. So this amarbale, it twines itself around the plant or the tree on which it climbs. This amarbale or cuscuta is having a special type of structure known as hostorias. These hostorias just pierce onto the tree on which it climbs. So why does it pierce? It pierces so that it can take out the ready-made food, the nutrient from the tree on which it climbs. On this type, by doing this, it makes the tree deprived of the nutrient, but it fulfills its desire. So, this type of nutrition in which an organism like cuscuta wholly depends on other tree for its nutrition and nourishment, takes all the nutrient from the plant and makes that poor plant dead of nutrients. This type of nutrition is known as parasitic nutrition. Just like if I'll give you an example of a guest and a host. Suppose there is some unwanted guest in our home, right? That unwanted guest stays in our home, use all the liberties we are having, then we won't like such guest if it stays more than the number of days required. It's disturbing its timetable, right? So that unwanted guest can be referred as a parasite. And the host here is we, the sufferers. Similarly, in this example of cuscuta and tree, the cuscuta is an unwanted guest, whereas the poor tree is a host. Now, parasitic nutrition is of two types, total parasitic or partial parasitic. Total parasitic, like in case of cuscuta. But partial parasitic means there is a one more tree, mistletoe. So although it is green in color, it can make its food, but for the need of water and nutrients, it gets dependent on the host on which it lives. So this is known as parasitic type of nutrition. Now let's discuss our next mode of nutrition, that is symbiosis. Lichens are the very amazing example of this. Lichens are composed by the two organisms, fungus and alga, where alga, which is green in color, prepare food for the organism and fungus share that food, and in turn it gives the protection, shelter and nutrients to the alga. So lichens are the very nice examples of showing symbiotic nourishment. So dear student, symbiotic nutrition means the mode of nutrition in which the two different organisms, they live together, they work together for the mutual benefit. Here, one organism is not only being benefited. Here, the two are equally benefited for one another. Now let's discuss a very special mode of nutrition. There are some plants which are green in color, but still they depend somehow on some others for their some nutritional requirements. Such plants which depend on others for their nutritional requirements, although being green in color, are known as insect-eating plants, that is, insectivorous plants. Here comes Utricularia, Drosera, Venus flytrap, and pitcher plant. These plants, being green in color, they can make their food, but to make proteins, they need nitrogen, and to fulfill that nitrogen, they have to feed on the insects. So let's study about insectivorous example in detail by taking an example of pitcher plant. In pitcher plant, the leaf lamina is modified into a pitcher, a tube-like a structure, and the apex of the leaf served as a lid to open and close the pitcher. When an insect lands on the pitcher, the lid automatically closes. On this, the insect gets trapped into the pitcher, which is having a hair-like structures acting downwards, and the insect gets trapped, entangled, and digested by the plant. In this way, the plant fulfills the requirement of the nitrogen by eating the insects. So this type of nutrition in which an plant feed on insect for fulfilling the nitrogen requirement are known as insectivorous nutrition, or we can say insectivorous plants. Usually a question comes here. Insectivorous plants comes under which type of nutrition? Autotrophic or heterotrophic? Dear students, insectivorous plants, they are not autotrophic. It's fine, they can make their own food, but they comes into the category of partial heterotrophs because for the nutritional requirement of nitrogen, they feed on insects. Every crop or plant grows on soil. So plants take the nutritional requirement, fulfill their nutritional requirement for the soil. The soil must be get deprived of some very important constituents like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. So it's very important to replenish the soil. How can we replenish the soil? We can replenish the soil by giving it proper manure, fertilizer, compost, which can fill the absence of nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium etc. in the soil. Also, the farmers should be made aware. The farmers should be made aware that instead of every year growing same type of crop, they should go for alternate methods of growing crops. Like for 6 months they can grow usually crops, and next 6 months they can go for growing of leguminous plants, so that we can fulfill the nutritional requirement of soils. Dear students, in this chapter we studied about the nutritional requirements of plants and the mode of nutrition of plants. So thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to share, like and subscribe Sciencephian.